welcome everyone to This Week in Svelte episode 88. As usual, please let me know if everything is okay. And today, we'll see. So, let's jump right into it with the changelog. So, last week we left with expose more ST type, blah blah blah. And now, there's always ongoing there's still ongoing the advent of Svelte, which is not for you to code, but for us to release a feature every day. So let's go over and let's see what we got this week. So we have a small feature like add outro option to unmount. And basically this means that when you programmatically unmount a component, you can specify outro through to run the transition for the elements inside the component, which is pretty sweet. And this was actually part of the Advent of Svelte feature set, which is provide loose parser mode. This may seem something like it's not impacting you, but the reality is that with this feature, what we did basically was allow for a much better auto-completion inside VS Code, because basically, so to be able to provide you auto-completion and stuff like that, we need to compile your component. We need to parse your component rather than compile. And before, since the parser was kind of strict, if you had some syntax error inside your component, you will get no auto-completion basically. Because Svelte was erroring out and it was not able to provide you with good auto-completion. Now you can actually do it, so it's much better. If you update to the latest Svelte extension and to the latest to Svelte 5.13.0, you will see much better auto-completion. 5.14 is adding inspect.trace rune. So we got a new rune, and I'll tell you, this is a phenomenal rune. I want to show you. So obviously, it's inspect, so it's always something that has to do with let me zoom in a bit more. Is always something that has to do with debugging. But the nice thing about inspect trace is, let's say that we have $state count, for example. And let's say that we have a derived, which is doubled is equal $state count time 2, not state, derived, something like this. And let's say that we have an effect. So inspect.trace will be useful when you need an effect. So it needs to be the first thing inside a function, inside the effect. So you can do inspect.trace. And you can provide a label for it. Was it already? Yeah. So if you want to be more clear, like my effect, otherwise it will infer it for you. And then you can do stuff inside your effect. So let's say for the moment we do console log doublet, right? And let's add a button with count, and on click we do count plus plus. So now obviously doubled is a dependency of effect. And I don't know if we are able to show. Yeah, we are able to show here. That's good. So as you can see, right away, you can see that my effect ran because derived changed. So this is the first run, obviously. So derived is 0. And you can even expand this a bit and see that derived actually derived by state. That is 0. And you can expand state and you can actually get a stack trace. Now, stack trace will be much better if, in the playground, obviously, it's a bit cumbersome because the playground actually runs a minified version of the thing. So stack trace are not super good, but in development mode, when you will use inspect.trace, they will be actually much better, and you can actually see what is causing like these to rerun. And now the best thing is that if you do this, it runs again. So we are console logging double, and then you get that the effect was retriggered because of derived and state and stuff like that. And the best part of this is, let's say that we have let check checked maybe is equal to $state false, and let's do input type is equal to checkbox bind checked. So we have a way to control this. And let's say that we want to do like if checked, we want to console log doubled. Now, okay, so in this case, you can see that inside my effect, there's no derived anymore, because like, and this is actually something pretty interesting about effect in thing. Like if double change, the effect will not rerun. So the reason why it will not rerun is because doubled is not a dependency of the effect. And the reason because it's not a dependency is because the output of this effect, if the effect is actually a pure function, which should be, the output of these, the outcome of this effect will not change when double change until checked is still false, right? So as you can see, like we can increase the value and the effect will not rerun. So if you were confused by like why it's not rerunning, you can just use inspect trace and see that inside this effect there's no dependency on doubled. But what happens when we actually switch to checked to be true? Let's see. Now we have two dependency. We have state, which is true, and we have derived, which is 28. And now that's the best part, because what happens when we change count? If we click, you can see, and that's a very nice touch, and Dominic did such a great job for this. Like you can see that inside your effect, derived is what triggered the effect rerun. So in this case, state is still a dependency, but it was not involved in the, like, it's not why this effect rerun. So this is so cool. Like you can literally, like, if you have some effect problems, which you should not have, because please don't use effects. But if you have any like problem with effect, you can just drop an inspect trace in it, and you can literally see what's causing the effect to rerun. And it's just wonderful. So very, very great. Like I think this is probably my favorite advent of Svelte to today. Is there a way to get the name of the variable that is true or 10? I don't think there's one. So yeah, it might get confusing if you have multiple variables. But it's also true that at the end of the day, like how many dependency you can have. Like in this case, it's pretty clear that checked is actually true, and also I think actually you can probably get something. You need to spelunk a bit inside the stack trace, because I think inside the stack trace you can probably check, and again, like in the playground it's a bit more annoying, but in dev, and we can try later, because like in dev you get this state source, so if you control click here you can actually see where in your app.svelte that thing is declared. So it should be it'll tick deprecated. I don't think tick can get deprecated. No, I think it's fine. Like at the end of the day, tick is also basically just promise.resolve. So if you want, you can actually just use promise.resolve. I think it's slightly different for some, but in general, tick is pretty simple to. The overlap between a lot of dependency and debugging needs is pretty big. Again, I think you can get to the actual dependency with the stack trace. Yeah. Actually, yes, because this is where, okay. I actually didn't know this, and thanks for asking, because you see that below state, you get a created that error. So this is where the source is created, and you can literally, obviously not in the playground, but in your code, it will be much better. You can control click here and literally go to the definition of the variable that is creating problem. And then you also get updated at error, which you can control click on set basically and see where the value is being updated that causes problem. I mean, the more I look at this, the more I feel like Dominic did such a great job. Like, this is literally my favorite feature of Advent of Svelte. So yeah, it's pretty sweet. Let's move to another day, which is, I mean, this is not another day, it's just a fix, improve annual derived performance. There are some, yeah, initially, like, there was a slight, like, confusing stuff about inspect.trace that were highlighting the different, like, the first time we're always highlighting everything. More loose parser improvement. Bump ESWrap to prevent malformed AST. Yeah, compare array contents for equality mismatch detection, not the array themselves. Remove implements from, like, so okay. This is something like this set of patches was due to ESWrap, which is a library from Richaris. It's a library from Richaris to basically print an AST. And this was actually kinda of a good Advent of Svelte day for tooling. Because basically now ESWrap can actually print TypeScript nodes. So in Svelte, we were doing some, like, we were removing the TypeScript nodes because they were not needed, and we're replacing it with empty. But now that ESWrap can actually create, like, print TypeScript node, it was creating problems. So we had to basically fix a bunch of stuff in Svelte. But this is a nice thing, because now that ESWrap can actually print TypeScript, this means that in the future, like, code mod can become much more easy, and like it's nice. This will impact the Svelte AST print, which is a library made by one of the maintainers of the storybook add-on for Svelte. Like, he's pretty deep into tooling, and he created a utility to print a Svelte AST, and now with this can also print a Svelte AST with TypeScript. So we can basically use that knowledge and use this library to actually like do code mod, which does not rely on changing the string, but we can actually manipulate the AST. So it's good. Yeah, another ESWrap bump will be happening soon. I have a PR open here. I actually noticed this. There is, like, it may happen. Like, there are some weird stuff on ESWrap. I think, like, it's the PR to allow for export all as something, right? I don't know if that's it, but I saw that PR. So tree shake inspect trace code if unused, which is always good. Ensure SVG namespace for A elements is correct. This is such an annoying thing about the browser, and it's the fact that basically if you like if you try to render something in an SVG namespace, it has to be the SVG namespace attached to it. And if it doesn't, it's just ignored. And this is especially annoying for anchor tag, because you can actually have an anchor tag inside an SVG. It's not the most common of the use cases, but is actually a use case, and it's very annoying. Tree shake, inspect trace code if you're using modules. So improve TypeScript DX for inspect props, bindable, and host. So I think yeah, this is from Automated, which is another like community member that is pretty deep into contributions. And basically like now you get actually autocompletion for stuff like this. I think I didn't properly look into this PR. There's also another interesting bit, which is other worker export condition to better support bundling for work-based environment. So I don't know if you know, but basically like in package.json, when you export something, so when you make it available, like the reason why you can do import something from Svelte/store, for example, is because like we wrote in the package.json that if you write Svelte/store, it's actually directing to this specific file. And there are multiple conditions. So there is default, which should basically be node, but you can specify browser so that the browser will get a client file basically. And you can also specify worker. And if you specify worker, basically it's what the workers will get when you import something from there. And so like someone added this export condition so that you can actually import Svelte stuff inside the worker and get a better experience basically. Let's take a look at SvelteKit, because we also have something juicy there from the oh, okay, yeah, it marks apply another common function mode as deprecated so that you only get inspect.trace. Very nice. Can you also, sorry Mike, can you specify which anchor tags works as the same as goto? What do you mean by this? In which sense? So let's go over like SvelteKit, because we get some pretty nice stuff. So sure, specify the root ID in the error message. That's just a patch, but that's the minor that we are looking at. We now have $up/state. So as the same as $up/store, you can actually, so you get $up/store, which are the store, like the page store, navigating store, and stuff like that. And now there's actually $up/state, which is basically a version of the stores, but with runes. And this is pretty nice, because obviously this means that first, you don't need to use stores anymore if you want. And the nice part actually is that state is obviously fine-grained. So this means that if you are listening to, I don't know, $page, like actually not $, to page.data and form changes, then you will not get an update for $. I can figure out. Like if you're listening to data and only form change, you will not get an update, which is cool. Because before it was actually happening with the stores. Replace navigating.current.x with navigating.x. So that's nice. Before, like the state was doing, you had to do navigating.current.x, but now you can just do navigating.property, which is nice. This was a problem like with the hook folder. So if you had a hook folder and a hook file, there was some weirdness. And also $up/state was weird on vit5, so we had to fix it. And this is another feature, very interesting one, that we got yesterday. Now you can specify bundle strategy, and it can be either split or single. So what does it mean is that by default, is split, and it means that you will get basically like multiple files, and inside your application, while you navigate, you can, like, the browser will automatically fetch the new modules as you need. So your application will be splitted in different modules. Sometimes, though, it's useful to have one single bundle. So, and that's why you now can specify single as a bundle strategy. So usually you should not do this if you're just building a web application. This can be useful, for example, for capacitor. So if you're building a a mobile app, if I'm not mistaken, basically capacitor can, like, it's still using HTTP1, which means that if you import multiple files, it needs to waterfall them. Like, it needs to wait for the previous one to start loading, to finish loading, to start loading the new one. And when you have a lot of files, which can happen if you have a pretty large application, it really slows down navigation, because when you click, it needs to download, I don't know, 5 things, and you need to wait for the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and go on and go on. So what you can do with this single option is that you can get a single bundle. It will probably still be pretty quick to load, because, like, it's local, so you can load it, and after you load it, it's done. Like, you don't have to load any more code. Again, it's not something that like we recommend when building an actual application, but for some use cases, it's pretty good. I think another use case was for WordPress plugins, because, like, you can specify one single file or something like that. I'm not an expert, so yeah, that's pretty nice. Let me see if we have any other. Yeah, that's why my server keeps, like, okay, Mike is saying that's why my server keeps fighting when I see. So it's not completely for that, but partially for that. So what you are experiencing is module and data preload. So by default, SvelteKit does this. So when you hover on an anchor tag, it will start to download the code for the next route and the data for the next route. You can disable this with SvelteKit data preload off, something like that. So if you don't want this behavior, you can, but it's very nice, because basically what you can do is you can, while the user is hovering over a link, you will already download the code for the next page, so that when they click, it's basically instant. Pretty nice. Let's see other, and then we can move to the scary part of today's stream, which is me live coding. I don't know if there's something, yeah, with plugins Svelte 4.0.4. Yeah, TypeScript plugin, make use of loose Svelte parser. Let's see if there's something interesting. Oh, there's also an up state migration, so you can run sv migrate up state to migrate from stores to state in your application. There's also documentation for self-closing tag migration. So if you didn't know, like in Svelte 5, self-closing tags are actually, like, warned against. So if you are using self-closing tag like div closing, Svelte will warn about that. And now you can actually, you can actually migrate. I mean, it was already there before, but you can also migrate that specific part alone. Use lint plugin Svelte, and that's it. Okay, now the scary part. So, well, first thing first, another small thing, which is Svelte Summit. It's happening, and it will be an in-person Svelte Summit. So if you didn't know, Svelte Summit Spring 2025, 8 and 9 of May in Barcelona. There is even an online ticket if you want, but please come. I want to know you. everybody. And by the way, you have up until like the December 31st to grab your code with to grab your ticket with Sveltemas 2024 for a 20% discount. We already have 2 speakers confirmed, Richaris, who would have known, but we also got Matthias, which is better known online as Patak. This is he's generally a great guy. I met him at a conference, and in general, it's like you can follow him on Blue Sky, and it's a nice guy, and he will be there, and he will be talking about how Vite and Svelte interconnects. If you want to become a sponsor, you can become a sponsor. These are some speaker. Look at this hands-on face. And if you want to sign up for the newsletter, join our Discord, please, and follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky. This is the venue, which is super sweet, to be fair. And yeah, you can buy ticket, and the call for proposal is also open. And so if you want to submit a talk, please, we want to know about you, whatever you are working on. So please join us. And again, I'm pretty hyped because this is the first time that we are that's the company I work for, Main Matter, and we are co-organizing it. And it's so good to be able to help. Okay, so this was the announcement. Let me see if there is some comment here. That's your feature, Paolo, and it rocks. Have you considered bundle strategy CSS single JS split? So we can't, unfortunately. So based on how basically Svelte CSS, I think this is actually so what Gautier is asking is if we considered be able to determine I want just the CSS to be one or just the JS to be split, and unfortunately is not doable because of how Svelte treats CSS. So basically, when you build a Svelte application, you have from the same file, the same Svelte file has the JavaScript and the CSS. So inside rollup, it's actually pointing at basically the same file with a different query parameter. So it's importing up.svelte query param kind is equal JavaScript, and up.svelte query param kind is equal CSS. And unfortunately, when bundling in the same chunk, the ID is considered the same. So basically how it works is rollup is asking you, hey, where do you want to put this code? In which bundle do you want to put this code into? And if you answer with the same string, they will put everything in the same file. But the problem is that they are asking, where do you want to put this bundle in for CSS and then for JavaScript? And the file is the same. So rollup is actually putting everything inside a single file. We might be able to fix this in the future. I don't know. I have to explore a bit if rollup, it feels like a bug in rollup, but I don't know. Okay, let's go to the scary part, the live code. So what I want to do, I have a SvelteKit application, a very simple SvelteKit application, and I want to open it. So let me do terminal, new terminal. Let me run this application, pm I, already pm dev. And it doesn't work. That's annoying. So this is a bug in ESBuild. I need to, okay, let's actually do something. So the problem is there is a bug in ESLint, in ESBuild that is actually there. It's something that we can't do anything about. They need to fix ESLint. And this is exactly the bug that we are experiencing. And the way to fix this is add an override Yeah, is to pin to 0.4.0 via packet JSON or PNPM resolution overrides. So let me do, oh, should be, I can never remember, so it should be PNPM oh, you know what, let's just install it. PNPM I esbuild at this. So basically, this is a problem because esbuild has a bug, and but you can technically fix it by install esbuild like properly. So now in theory, if I do pnpm dev, it should work. Yes. If you don't want to literally install esbuild in your application, you can do pnpm overrides. I can never for the life of me remember the syntax. So let me try to figure out. So technically you should be able to do something like pnpm, and it should be something like overrides, and then here you have a list of overrides. But you basically need to do something like the package that you want to override, and I suppose is at svelte.js/kit, and then this is another object, and then you have to do esbuild and specify the right version. I don't know if this is the case, so let me actually try. Let me do pnpm rem esbuild, and let me do pnpm I think we are getting some error, so it's probably not. Yeah. I can never remember for the life of me. So let's forget about this. We installed it. It's not. Let's not drop into the rabbit hole. Okay, so we do pnpm dev, and now it should work. And we can open it. And obviously it opened in the wrong place. So, okay, let me open it here. Okay, we have this thing. So what I want to build, and the reason why I wanted to build, is to show you how to create something which is closer to the library that Svelte provides you. I understand, like, this is not really clear. So if you don't know, one of the features that we got from Advent of Svelte is window reactive value. So if I do inner, so if I do import from Svelte slash Svelte reactivity slash window, you can import window, like let's say you can import inner width and inner height, for example. And if you do this, you can basically just use inner width dot current time inner height dot current. And if you save this, you will get this, and this is reactive. So now if I expand, you can see that it looks like this. If I open the DevTools, I can actually show you in real time that it's changing, right? Pretty cool. Now, how is this working? This uses a pattern, which I think it's very, very interesting, and I want to show you because it's using another function that we got for Advent of Svelte, which is called create subscriber. And Revan is saying a bit late, but it would be nice to bundle a bunch of nested root into a single bundle. We'll see. So first thing first, let me like ease your eyes. Let me style global and body. And let me do can never remember this CSS property. Dark. I always have to search for it. CSS, dark, light. It's not this one. Color scheme. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so if we do this, technically we should be no. What is happening? What is happening? What? This is actually applying? I don't know. I want to see, sorry. We start with a bang. Oh, obviously I should do dark light. Dark. Oh, come on. Spect. Body. Why it's not dark? Okay, let's add it by ourselves. It should be automatic, but it's fine. So background color, let's do 222. And color, let's do EEE, and let's do also font family, sans serif. Yeah, nicer and like easier on your eyes. Let's also do, yeah, it's fine probably. So regardless of me rambling about these things, what I wanted to show you is how to create a utility just like this one, where basically you can connect to something in the browser that is not reactive, but as an event listener, for example, and how you can connect to the reactivity system in Svelte. So what I want to build is actually a new file, local storage utility. Now, this will not be super duper like everything handled and stuff like this. It will not be a library. It's just something very quick just to show you something. First thing first, we need to do local storage.svelte.ts, and we can create export class local storage and like this. So basically the idea is that we want to do something like local storage is equal new local storage, and we want to pass a key in, like test, for example. And this basically means that it will be in sync with the test key inside inside our thing, our local storage. And just to make things easier on ourselves, let's also do plus page.ts, and let's do export const ssr is equal to false, because we don't want to deal with SSR. It's fine. It's just an example, but you will do, so you will need to do if you want to build something like this. So, but it's at the end of the day, it's not that complex. Like you need to figure out how to like stop this thing to work when Java's on the server, because obviously you will need access to Windows. Okay, so let's start. So the very first thing that you can do, like that you might think of doing, is let's build a constructor, and we can have a state, for example, like this. I don't know, like value, as you want to say state, something like this. And then inside the constructor, you can do $effect and register an event listener and stuff like that. Now, this might be a reasonable thing to do, but there is a much better way, and I will explain why in a bit. So what we can use is, instead of using a stateful variable as the value and something like that, we can actually use create subscriber from Svelte reactivity. Now, this create subscriber, what it does is it get So you can pass a function in, and you can return a function from it, and you get an update function as input. So what does it mean? So first thing first, we need to store this in a variable, subscribe, in a private variable. So we can do this dot subscribe is equal to create subscriber. And we probably need to type it, return type, type of create subscriber, just to be sure. So how does this thing works? Basically, inside your constructor, you can create this subscriber function, and you can read something about like return a subscribe function that, if called in an effect, including expression in the template, call its start callback with an update function. Whenever update is called, the effect rerun. If start returns a function, it will be called when the effect is destroyed. If subscribe is called in multiple effect, start will only be called once as long as the effects are active, and the return teardown function will only be called when all the effects are destroyed. It's best, I think it's best understood with an example, and this is the example. So this is basically how, for example, the media query class works inside Svelte. And as you can see, like we have the query and we have the subscribe, and we are registering an event listener on this query. And when it changes, we call update. And we stop listening when all the effects are destroyed, right? So, and then when you do get current, you call this subscribe, and then you return the value of matches. And we will do something very similar here. So what this means is that basically this create subscriber allow you to specify when the value of this class, when the value of this thing is changed. So when you call the update function, it will notify Svelte, okay, this value is changed. So that's why you can actually do it. You can actually rerun the effect that read that value. So let's go over the example. So what we need to do basically is, first thing first, like we also need a key, which is a string. So we can have key, and we can do this dot key is equal key, because that's the key that we are gonna use. Oh, that's the key that we're gonna use, right? And this is also a string. So the subscribe function will basically, we need to determine when something inside the local storage changed. So we can add an event listener on window, because window will go, like there is an event for local storage, should be window, add event listener, I think is storage. Yeah. So there is the storage event that we can register, and this will be called whenever something in the local storage change. So what we can do is we can use the on function. We can register a function on window, and the kind is storage, and we get an event. And so the event itself now contains the key property, so returns a string with the key of the storage item that was changed. So we get the event, and we can do like if the key that changed, so if event.key, oh, event.key is equal to this dot key, then we want to call update. So this is basically saying whenever we have one of these events, we know that something has changed with the key that we are interested in, and so we can call update, and like notify Svelte that that thing changed, you need to rerun the effect that reads that thing. And the on function obviously also return an off function, so we can actually just do this. Okay, so basically the off function will be called whenever we finish our subscribers, and I will get a bit more into how it works. So we have this update. We also need another thing though, because obviously we want to be able to read the value from the local storage. So this is something that will allow us to read the value from the local storage, and when something changed that value, we want to be notified. But the storage event is actually only firing when is only fired when when the I can speak, I promise. It's only fired when another tab actually add something, change something into the local storage, if I'm not mistaken. So this will be called, but we also want to be able to write to the local storage. So to do so, what I think we can do, and by the way, I asked you on Twitter and Discord and Blue Sky if you wanted to see me struggle through this, or if you wanted to like have a concept of a plan. And the majority was that you want to see me struggle. So I'm struggling. Like, I did not prepare much for this, so like I don't have any code reference and stuff like that. So what I think we can do is we can have the update function stored, and I think that this should be like, to type it correctly, we can do parameters of type of create subscriber. So the parameter is a function. That's annoying. So we want to have the first parameter, and we want to have the parameters of that function, 0. So this should lead us to the update function, because it's the first part. I could just type it with this void, it's fine, but it's nice to be able to do it properly. So we can do this dot update is equal to update. So we store a reference to the update function so that we can call it whenever we set the value. Now we want a getter and a setter for this, so we can get current, and this is where the magic begins. So inside current, so basically when we do this current, what we will get is that basically when we do const ls is equal new local storage, and we pass a key in, ls.current, this is like when we read this function will be called. This is just a getter and a setter. Now, what we want to do, and that's the thing that we want to try to fix, is that when you do when you read, you can do this dot subscribe. Now what it does is that this calls the subscribe function that you get back from create subscriber, and this is basically what create subscriber is trying to like and sorry, I think I'm in the middle, so let me actually do this. It's not shown. I think I can move myself. Let me do it. Okay. I will never be able to go back to the same place, and I think I'm cut now. So what this is saying is that like it returns a subscribe function. If you call this function and you are in a tracking context, basically this thing will be executed. This thing will be, and actually I think we actually need to do or undefined here to be sure. So when you call this function subscribe, if you are in a tracking context, let me move back here. If you are in a tracking context, oh, I realized that, yeah, I should move here, sorry. if you are in a tracking context, this function will be called. And why is this important? Is because if you call getCurrent inside like this, you actually don't need to set up an event listener because you are not inside an effect. So this code will never rerun. It will run once, you can get the value, and that's it. You don't need to set up an event listener to listen to all the stuff and stuff like that, to listen to for changes and stuff like that. It's only important if you're using this in a tracking context, which is inside the template or inside the effect and stuff like that. So what we can do is we can call this subscribe, and this is basically like a no-op if we are not in a tracking context. But if we are in a tracking context, it's saying, okay, now I can force effect to rerun by calling update. So we call this subscribe, and after this we need to return a value, and we can literally read this from the thing. So we can do const value is equal window.localstorage.get item this.key, and just for the sake of it we can do json.parse, because this way we can store more. And obviously this is possibly undefined, so we can technically do this. So we can do const stir value is equal to this, and let's do let value is equal to null, and if stir value value is equal to json.parse stir value, and then we can return value. So basically what we are doing is that whenever this is called, if we are not in a tracking context, we are just reading from local storage, parsing, and returning. That's it. And we might even, like, let's try catch it just for the sake of it, because it might not be empty like this. It might not be JSON parsable, but technically what we are doing is just like you call getCurrent ls.current, and why is complaining? Yeah, okay, it's just cslint being dumped. Like we can do console log ls.current. So we call this, and let's add a key of this week's Svelte just for the sake of it. So again, we call subscribe, and if we are not in a tracking context, this is just basically for free, like it's just an operation. And then we read the value. But what this does is that if you are actually reading this from a tracking context, we now have the power that whenever we call update, Svelte will actually run this function again. And so it will read from the local storage again, which is pretty nice, right? So let's actually set up a set current. Oh. And we do new value like this. And let's actually do, let's do things correctly. So this should be should have a T, and this should return a T. So this obviously will, yeah, as any, we can do st, it's fine. And then new value will be T, because this way we actually have a bit of type safety. It's not really type safe, but more or less. So we have this new value. What we can do is obviously do window.local storage.set item, and we do this.key, and then we do json.stringify new value. So we have this, and basically, like, what we can do now is we can pass. Okay, oh, we also need, after we set the item, we need to tell, hey, Svelte, I updated this item. So we can do this dot update. And since it could be undefined, because if we never read from a tracking context, this will never be called, we just need to do this. So if everything goes according to plan, we should be able to use this. And we can do, like, let's start with string, just so that we know that it's a string and we know that we do this kind of stuff. So we want to export our this week in Svelte. Now, moment of truth. I don't know if this will work. And I actually coded it without checking. Cool. So let's remove, actually, let's keep it in. Let's do import this week in Svelte from local storage .svelte. And now I'm scared. So we can do input bind value to this week in Svelte dot current, like current, like this. And let's also show an h1 with this week in Svelte. Okay, the moment I hit save, we might see some error here or something nice. Okay, we have an object, which is not something that I'm expecting. Oh, because I need to do dot current. Okay. Now, if I try to write something, cool. It's working. It appears to be working. Let's try to refresh the page. It's working. So, yeah. Basically, what we have is inside our, I don't know if you can actually see it, and unfortunately I don't think I can actually show you much more, but we should have a this week in Svelte key, yeah, which is called cool, and when we change it, it's actually changing. So yeah, pretty cool. I think it works, and it works pretty flawlessly, and yeah. And now I want to try something. So let's say that something else changes this. Will this update? It should. So let's try to change this and say Paulo. Oh, I think I need to do it here. If I do Paulo and I save, it is working. Like, this is also the event. So basically, whenever something changes this thing, we will get an event and it will update. Pretty nice. So this week in Svelte, pretty cool. Let's the only thing they want to see, like, let's say we want to do window.localstorage.setItem this week in Svelte. Pretty cool. Like this. Yeah. Okay. So that's the thing that I was talking about, which might be a bit annoying. If you set from the same window, it will not throw an event. So that's a bit annoying. I don't know if there's a way to fix it, because like the only way to actually fix it would be to add a bottom split, and you can add a new page. And now, wait. Why is this not working? Should be working. Yeah, okay. As you can see, like, it's synchronized. I don't know why it was not working initially, though. Did I fumble something? What? Oh, that I'm very idiotic. I was setting pretty cool, but I need to set the JSON stringified version of pretty cool. So if I do this, it's actually working. But as you can see, like, it did not change here. And the reason why it did not change is because the event is only emitted for the other tabs. So this, like, it's nice. Like, you can, like, as you can see, like, I can change here and I can change here too, and it works. Multi-tab, pretty nice. But oh, and I was covering the whole time. Sorry guys, I'm not used to do this. But it's working. Like, as you can see, it is working in both tabs. So as long as you don't want to listen for events from your own tab, which I don't know if it's actually possible, but yeah, you can refresh the page and it's still there. It's a pretty nice thing. Obviously, like, the better, so now that we know that it's working, let's focus on the code so we can see if it's working correctly. I mean, no, we know that it's working correctly, but we can explore a bit more how it's working. And we can also explore how would you make this better. So I think, like, at the end of the day, so, and by the way, I also want to show you something. Like, I can also use these directly here, which is not something that you can use if you want to use an effect inside. So inside module, if I save and I open the page and I open the console, you can see that I have inside module here, talk the blah, 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 blah. So this is pretty nice because, like, you can also read the value from the local storage from, like, a place that is not a tracking context, which is not something that you can do if you use an effect inside the constructor. So, like, let's do a recap of how this works. So when the constructor is created, you pass in a key. So another possible things that you can do is, technically, you could make these like key actually, you could make this key be reactive if you want. I don't know why you would do that, but, like, personally, I would not do it. But you can if you want. Like, you can make it this a function and be like you can be able to react to the changes. So we store the key and then we create this subscriber function. So this subscriber function takes a function that is only called once whenever you are in a reactive content, if it was not called before. And you get this update function that basically whenever you call this function, you are notifying Svelte that the value that you are subscribing to is changed. And how everything is hooked up is that inside get current, you actually call the subscribe function that you created with create subscriber. And in this specific case, we also needed the update function outside, so we stored them also in a variable because we also want to notify you when current is actually changed. And then we register an event listener on window on the storage event, so that if the key that changes is the key that we are looking for, we call update. And again, the update function, like the concept of the update function is, whenever you call this function, you are saying, okay, if you were reading current in a reactive value, do it again. And so then we have this current, get current. So whenever you read current, you can call subscribe, and this will not do anything until you actually are in a reactive context. And then you just simply read from local storage. And this is just stuff that you have to do to actually get the value. So it's fine. And you can do value. And when you set the value, and then you call update. So in this case, pretty easy. You're just saying, okay, look, I've set the value. Please, Svelte, read it again. So what are possible enhancement of this? One thing is that, like, Gautier is asking, does it server-side render? No. And the reason why it doesn't server-side render is because obviously we are using local storage and there's no local storage on the server. What you can do, and what we did with media query, is if you know that it's very likely that you will have something, what you can do is you could provide a fallback. So let's try to make this server-side renderable. I might bit more than I could chew, but let's see. So if this is like, you can provide a fallback, which is of type T, basically, and you don't need to provide a fallback. So what you can do is that you can store the fallback. Fallback is of type T. So this dot fallback is equal to fallback. What do you want? T or undefined is not assignable. Yeah, T or undefined, that's fine. And so now that you have this fallback, I think it's probably fine to just leave this as is, because I don't think this will do anything on the server, but I might be wrong. We can check. And then when you have current, what you can do is you can read if browser. So if not browser, and you read current, you can just do return this dot fallback. Yeah, actually, like, yeah, this needs to be or null. So we might do null like this, just to be sure. Could be or undefined. So basically, if you are reading current and is not a browser, not in the browser, we are returning the fallback if there's one, otherwise null. And when you set the value, you also want to do if browser and basically return if it's not browser, because if you set the local storage on the server, it doesn't make sense. So I think this should be it for reading. So this means that, let's say that I know that this week in Svelte will have the value of pretty cool on the client. Now we can let's do client-side rendering false, so that we don't have JavaScript on the client. And if we refresh, like now this is actually server-side rendered. Obviously it will not work. So if we remove also client-side render, now what happens here is that when you refresh the page, you will actually see like there will be shift of content if it's not the same value. But if it is the same value, pretty cool, then it's fine. Obviously, like, it's shifting because of the, so let me remove inner content and inner width, just so that we don't have layout shift. And now, like, as you can see, like, if you are pretty sure that the value will be this one, you can actually, like, provide a fallback and make sure that everything works correctly. But obviously, like, if you refresh, yeah, maybe you should, I don't know, notify the server when something changed and keep track of it so that you can provide a fallback for server-side rendering. That's just a random idea. Like, it's to have something like local first. Exactly. It's perfect if you sync with the server in the background. But I mean, we are in a more complex situation. Another possible improve could be that instead of reading a single key, you could have a local storage utility, and you can just then read local storage dot something like local storage dot const ls is equal new local storage, and you can, instead of providing a single key, you could do something like ls dot my key is equal to blah blah blah. This could be another improvement. This is a bit more complex, and I don't even know at the end of the day, like, I think this is pretty good because it's rare that you want to read all your keys. It's more useful that you want to watch for a specific key. And we have a comment that all seems ridiculously overcomplicated. So the point is, how would you do it? Like, you kind of need to do the same thing anyway if you want to handle reactivity with the browser. Like, this is handling a lot of small edge cases, and is so you kind of would do the same things. Like, the only room specific thing is this create subscriber, but once you get to know how it works, it's actually pretty simple. You just get an update function that you can call, and you get a window, and whenever you call the update, Svelte will read the thing. So you just need to get into the how it works. Obviously, like, it's not a pattern that you used before, so you are not familiar with it, but I think it's fine. I think, like, I was able to code this without actually testing it before. So check paste bin. I don't know what you, I think you're trying to link something, but I think YouTube is stopping you from doing that. Yeah, if you're building a complex client-side application like Google Docs, you'd have to jump through a lot of hoops to keep things in sync. Svelte offers you some nice reactive API to do that. Could you show an example of updating an object using this pattern? I'm using a curd library which I have to subscribe to changes, then selectively update state 1 bit. So that's the other thing that I was talking about. Like, so if, let's say that this is not a string, like, the problem with this implementation currently is that if you have an object, let's say value, which is a string, right? So let's provide value this blah blah blah. If you have an object, so I should do this.current. So that's part of the problem. So if you have an object, with this implementation, you have to set the whole object. Like, each key is basically like reactive only if you assign the whole object. So we cannot use bind value anymore. You need to do an input, and on input, you basically need to do this week is val.current is equal to value is equal e.target. e.target.value. And actually should be current target because TypeScript is annoying. Yeah, this should be this, and this.current.value. So if we do this, this will work basically the same when we change something. Yeah, obviously now yeah, this.current.value. That's it. So now that we changed this, we can do basically the same thing. Now, this is obviously very annoying to do. So this is another implementation that you can fix. And the way you could try to fix this is, instead of returning just the value itself, you can return a proxy. And if you return a proxy, you can basically listen to each key of the object, and when each of the key of the object changes, you can update the same key of the local storage. It's a bit more complex than what we are doing now, so I'll leave you this as an exercise for the viewer. But actually, like, maybe I will update this code before pushing it, and it will be available in the description to also handle this situation. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know. I mean, see you guys either before the end of the year or next year. Thank you, and I'll see you guys next week or next year.